And greetings, everybody. Keith here, hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. I want to remind everybody hit that like, share, and subscribe. There's a PayPal link down below in the details for anybody that wants to share some love. And of course, the StreamYard link is down there for anybody who wants to join the panel. We're going to go over a review or do a review of a video I did a few years back on the selective service and what it is. But before we get into that, I've got another video I want to play for everybody real quick, and I hope you enjoy it. It's "Enjoy Your Stupid Life," and it is by Rodney Norman.
So there's a lot of uncertainty going on. Just a lot of stupid people doing stupid things, and money's going crazy, and seems like every day just people are getting more ridiculous, and things are getting more ridiculous all the time. But things have been pretty ridiculous for a long time. Just now we're just more aware of how ridiculous they are because we all have access to more of the ridiculousness that's going on. So it's all stupid. It's always been stupid. It's always probably going to be stupid. So I just hope it takes some time to just look around this world and go, well, this place is pretty cool. This life thing is pretty cool, in spite of all the stupidness. Okay, so hope you're enjoying your stupid life. Appreciate it for what it is. Okay, we'll see you around. Okay, bye.
Looking
How you doing tonight, Truth and Empowerment?
Man, hold on. Lights are going off in the truck. Do they go off when you? Oh, do the lights
What?
go off in your car?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna mute you, brother. Okay, selective service and what it is. Again, this is a video I did a few years back, researching into the multiple topics that I was involved in. And like I've said many times, it's all about the military. Everything is military. And when we look at the selective service, it's interesting how it's instituted through the 14-year-old. The 14-year-old male who volunteers to go to school, high school specifically, at an age where you can quit. And so he goes to high school, which is considered a higher education, and mom and dad still have him under Social Security for any kind of medical needs he might have. So this puts him in a particular situation where he's already taking benefit of Medicare and higher education. And this is the presumption that he's doing so because he's going to go into the military. And this presumption lays wide the supposed requirement that young men are supposed to sign up for selective service. So through this video, I'm hoping to show you how that is not true. And feel free to stop me and pause me anytime, brother. Anytime you got any comments.
Good afternoon, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. I want to get on and talk to everybody about the selective service. and what it is, how it works in relations to the welfare program, and this and that. And it's only going to be brief, I think, because this is the first time I've looked at this Selective Service Registration Code itself. And so I've never actually looked at it in depth. So I might find some stuff here that might relate to other information I've already researched or correlate with research that I should be doing as well. So we're going to take a look at that. Okay. This is, obviously, we're looking at 34 CFR 668.37 Selective Service Registration. Now, when we look at this, we see it's the Education Department and it's regulations of the offices of offices. So it is an official office of a military service. That's where the offices sit. It's a provisional government by a military service and operates under martial law, and the political offices they're under are all.
And I also did another video, a very extensive video on what's called the General Education Provisions Act.
Offices of the same thing, whether it be an office of the Department of Education, Homeland Security, Administration, Accountability, Management and Budget, whatever. It's still military. Every last bit of it is military. Office of Post-Secondary. Office of Post-Secondary Education. It's not primary education of the post. Get it? But it's Office of Post-Secondary Education, Department of Education. This is all public. It's not private education of posting, of post. What is a post? And like I said before, everywhere you go, you're posting shit to somebody's record. And you've only got a secondary education to a primary record.
And I'm sorry, I did it again. These educational records are a matter of postings to accounts. These are military schools, educational systems based on statistical record keeping for their experiment, their thought experiment, to determine what you're going to be able to do in your older life. It's a commercial classification based on the ability to indoctrinate you into remembering to do certain things, sign your name, and give a name and address. But it's never explained why or how to qualify it for the proper capacity.
Okay, so let's take a look at it. A, to be or not to be? That is the question. It says selective. Okay. Once you elect to be part of a service, then you get a selection. As being enrolled in education, mom and dad elected to put you up for selective service registration. Boys. To be eligible to receive Title IV and higher education program funds, a male student who is subject to registration with selective service must register with selective service. Okay. That tells us males or females benefit from the Title 4D and the higher education program funds. So ladies, I want to ask you, just like food stamps and everything, why are you not getting education free? Is it because they're telling you, well, it's going to cost you this, this, and this, when in fact the higher education program funds it through welfare, which is for the benefit of mothers and children, and never once mentions the dad, except in taking charge over a child of which either parent objects? So if a male student objects, and the only reason they would have this for moms and children is if the male student wasn't around. So I want everybody to think about this, because it's still a selective service. You always have the ability to back out and say, I'm sorry, I made a bad choice. I found a better way. I found a better path. I found a higher education. So my woman and my children wouldn't have to depend on yours through a secondary education program, which is still, that's what their higher education is. It's still a secondary program. Think about this, people. All these senators, accountants, attorneys, bankers, a lot of this information that we're putting out, they have never heard of, even though they went to 2, 4, 6, 8 years of college. I guarantee you that doctor that took a Hippocratic oath, I can completely prove he is incompetent on the stand by questioning an English major, and why such an idiot who professes that he understands English would take an oath to God and to Apollo and the Greek gods. Yeah, please. Just set it on the stove. Comprehend that, folks. You want to put me to a competency test? Why did that doctor take a Hippocratic oath to God, Apollo and the Greek gods? No, not the one that's questioning me about my competency, but I'm questioning my mom's competency and this whole fucking record and its ability to question my competency first. Because as far as I know, that's tampering with a witness, an informant, unlawfully converting and instrumentalizing a deceptive language. Pure and simple. So it goes on to say, a male student does not have to register with the selective service if the student is below age of 18 or was born before January 1st, 1960. I think they need to update that. See, this is one of those points that I like to make, because it shows an inconsistency on the record. Think about this, guys. If somebody's born before January 1st, 1960, that means that motherfucker got to be at least 73 years old at this point in time. We are talking about now time in its correct, accurate correlation. Okay? Plain language. In plain language, this is aired. Is enrolled in an officer procurement program. The curriculum, officer procurement program. Did you enroll your children in an officer procurement program, the curriculum of which has been approved by the Secretary of Defense after you registered their birth with the Secretary of Defense through the Department of Defense birth registration, which is only an agreement between the federal government and an official of the state to assign a social security number to a newborn child who has already proven that they are taking charge over of a child over parents at all, because neither parent has made an objection first, including the mom, the informant? This is a title. Secretary of Defense Act. This tells you where the Virginia Military Institute, Lexington, Virginia. Norwich University. That's a college, North Georgia College. That's a title. Same situation. These are granted organizations. These are land grants. These are land grant colleges. This is a land grant institution. Possession, entry, and ejection from lands is a military operation. Is a commissioned officer of the Public Health Service. Telling you, When you get that assigned Social Security number to the newborn child, you just entered them into a commissioned office of a military public.
And so this is the delegation of powers down into your high schools from the colleges and stuff. This is where they placate that higher education. If you don't get into the military, then you've got a college education that you can get that would allow you to work in the civilian force at the white collar level instead of at the high school average reading comprehension of 7th grade and get a job flipping burgers down at McDonald's or something. But remember, folks, it's still no person shall reside within the zone except federal, state, or municipal officers or agents whose resident presence is deemed necessary. So again, that's that public health service where the Social Security Administration, through that enumeration at birth, gives you a Social Security card to provide personal services in all health situations, whether it be an employment health situation, private health situation, educational school, public school health situation, whatever. It's all tied to that Health and Human Services record. That's who holds that probated estate, saying that you're a legal representative.
Public health service. You elected as mom and dad to do so. And then you turned around and continued that with enrollment for curriculum to train him for public procurement. Or a member of the reserve of the Public Health Service. Again, telling you it's a military operation who is on active duty. Mom and dad, are you on active duty?
That's the presumption that mom and dad are military officers in tenant housing. That's why you're called a tenant. And that's a military construction. Again, the residence, the school, the hospital, everything's military, folks.
Mom, were you on active duty when you were bearing labor pains, doing his good works? After one of his children was founded in your kiln, your womb, and you were entrusted with that product of life for 9 months? Dad, did you see that? Were you co-trustee in that? Being cast upon the earth and not being part of the military. They tampered with witnesses.
This is why it's so important to make that declaration at birth, superseding and supplementing the enumeration at birth. Making sure that they know that it's registered in the family Bible or some kind of family register, and that there is a claim that is first and superior to that of any commercial claim. That's kind of basically putting a lien on everything without having to do it in their lien system. Greetings, brother. You're dropping in and out. You get a good connection
I
yet?
couldn't get this. Yeah, it wasn't the connection. It was the sound setting on StreamYard kept messing up and wouldn't let me hear audio.
Ah. You got her all taken care of now, though?
Yeah, finally got it. Yeah, I'm
Awesome.
fairly new to connecting the Bluetooth headphones and all that. I don't have wired headphones, so I got the Bluetooth JBL ones.
Hey, works good. Works good. We're getting you 5x5 here.
Right, so you can hear good.
Yep.
Awesome. All right.
And just feel free to holler out pause for me anytime you got anything.
Got it.
All you got to do is say so. They can't prove otherwise. None of their documents are scriptural. None. Not one. None. When the secretary processes a male student's FAFSA, the secretary determines whether the student is registered with the Selective Service under a data match with the Selective Service. Everything's entered into the Selective Service record, moms and dads.
And when you, gentlemen, look up your Selective Service number, just punch in your research engine, how do I find my Selective Service number? And it'll take you directly to the Social Security site that you can look it up on. And what they're going to do is they're going to tell you to give you the last name and birthday and the Social Security number. And they're specifically going to direct you to enter the Social Security number without dashes. Okay? That's an obligor number. It's known as the obligor number.
Moms who bear children to females, little girls. Even though you're not in the military, dad's not there. And it's assumed that dad is lost at sea and the state is going to help take care of the welfare of mom and the child. If mom and dad simply step up.
And that's because the states have in their custody a probated estate with dad's name on it. So even if he is alive and doing well and they know it, the presumption of the record says otherwise. Otherwise, he would have a living will and they wouldn't be able to touch him. This is part of the problem, again, with that enumeration at birth, the public education system, the marriage license. Those are all contracts saying you're a public officer. You're not.
Say no thanks. That's not the way it is. And that's not the way it can be because we are not with the Selective Service ourselves. And I'm sorry. We can't just, you can't just sign us up. See, by signing up for that welfare, that SS5 application at the age of 18, guys and ladies, you're stating that you're part of the military. And that's not so. Moms and dads, when you have children and you enter them in that birth registration, you're saying you're part of the military. And if that's not so, that record can't be made. It's a false data entry. Under the data match, Selective Service reports to the Secretary whether its records indicate that a student is registered. That's all it does. It doesn't prove anything. It only indicates. It's indicative. It is not proof. It is evidence in on for the record that certain transfers and transactions have been committed, but the information is never verified. Never. If it were, they would find that it's false.
And they use that term indicate in specific areas. Again, like I'm trying to point out, it is not, you are not required to register for Selective Service, people. They cannot make you do that which is not in your heart. They cannot make you do which is impossible. And if your God, whoever that may be, Christian God or the Greek Apollo gods, Apollo and the other gods of the Greek mythologies, whoever that God might be, if there's an instruction that says you're not supposed to go to war, then that creates an impossibility. Again, under Article 1 of that Constitution, Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion. So therefore, any kind of military law would be a violation of that very religious right. We're not supposed to be warring. Remember the Christian law, owe no man anything but to love one another, for that is to fulfill the law. So if you go around killing people, that shows you don't love them.
This is why I pose that all you got to do is correct the record. That the student is registered and the Secretary reports the results of the data match, not the actual scrutiny of a record, but just the results of what's indicative to the student and the institution the student is attending. If the Selective Service does not confirm through the data match that the student is registered, the student can establish that he is registered, is not, or was not required to be registered. Correction of the records, I'm sorry. As I find in the records, mom and dad, the informant, mom, as an informant, couldn't be part of the military.
She wasn't part of the military and she wasn't married to a military officer. So where is the military nexus required to make such demands?
Somebody tampered with a witness. Fact on the record. Has registered since the submission of FAFSA, meets the conditions of paragraph D of this section, which says an institution may determine that a student who was required to, but did not register with Selective, is not ineligible to receive Title IV and higher education assistance for that reason. Is not ineligible. In other words, they're admitting that you are eligible, guys, to receive Title IV and higher education assistance.
And notice, it says they can't, that's basically saying they can't deny you just because you didn't register for Selective Service. Whereas earlier it said, in order to be eligible for Title IV and higher education assistance, a male student subject to registration. Again, confirming that he's not subject to registration unless he takes upon those eligibilities. And even if he does take upon those eligibilities, those benefits, he is still not required to, because it's saying here he can get those without being registered with Selective Service still.
For that reason, if the student can demonstrate by submitting clear and unambiguous evidence to the institution that he was unable to present himself for registration for reasons beyond his control.
Beyond his control, every breath I take is an act of God. My God tells me not to strike another man, let alone go to war to try to kill him. That's an impossibility. Okay, beyond my control. My heart deeply says I can't pick up a gun and aim it at another being.
It's beyond my control. Isaiah 44, verse 5 says that I shall call my...
And here's your answer, Earth Angel. Where does the Vatican come in? Pay attention. The Vatican made a claim in the Unum Sanctum saying that they claimed the souls of all living men. That's a false claim. The Vatican, the Pope, cannot make such a claim, particularly based upon the scriptures of that very Christian book, the Catholic Bibles.
Myself by the name of Jacob and subscribe by my hand in the surname of Israel.
That's Isaiah 44:5. And that particular verse is confirming Isaiah 43:1. Fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by thy name. Thou art mine. The Pope can't make a claim on my soul if it's already known to be his. That's a false claim.
Such as hospitalization, incarceration, or institutionalization, or he is over 26, and when he was between 18 and 26 and were required to register, he did not knowingly and willfully fail to register with the Selective Service, or what they leave out here is he did not knowingly and willingly register with the Selective Service despite not being eligible. He served as a member of one of the U.S. Armed Forces on active duty and received a DD-214. Certificate of release of discharge, or release or discharge from active duty. Certificate of release or discharge. You have to complete and qualify its use. This is telling you it can be used for a release. In other words, you release your services from the military to the civil duties, civil areas, civil jurisdiction, civil services. So now you're done with the military service and you're going to release your personal services to the civil side of the record. Or discharge from active duty, whereupon you go upon your own private way.
Off duty. You're now at liberty and off duty. And Yesem says, what would be the connection between Selective Service done on people being evicted? There have been a lot of these sheets posted as part of their eviction process. Stumped and puzzled. Again, it's all military fiat currency. It's all a military issue. The enumeration at birth is a departmental regulation under 5 U.S.C. 301, applicable to the Department of Defense, and requires minimum birth registration requirements under the Plain Writing Act, all in 5 U.S.C. 301. Everything's military, folks. I cannot stress that enough.
They do know this stuff. You just have to be able to express it. Hey, I made a mistake. I made an act. I had all these actions, continuous and repeated exposure to the same conditions, placing public liability where I never expected or intended as the insured. See, when I took up the SS5 and became insured and started placing those liabilities on the record through continuous and repeated exposure to the same conditions of believing that I was required to, when in fact I wasn't and was not even eligible to, I repent. I'm sorry. I did not mean to cause all this trouble. But now that I know of it and I've given notice, it's everybody's duty, because you're the ones on the civil or military side in the service still that have an active duty.
See, and this is the thing about the freedom of expression. When I'm up here expressing this stuff, I'm not trying to tell you how to do things. I'm expressing things that are in their codes, in their writing, that tell them their jobs. Okay? So when they're denying certain portions of paperwork that they're handing at you and telling you you have to do certain things, they don't know what they're talking about. There's not one reason why you're even supposed to touch a piece of paper. There's not one reason why they're even supposed to confront you. There is every reason in the world that they're supposed to know that as public servants in a public trust, they are not supposed to be violating the beneficiary. Period.
and have not been released or discharged from that active duty, showing military service with other than the reserve forces and National Guard. All you got to do is flip the script on them, guys. They tell you, this is very plain language. For the purpose of paragraph D21 or D2I of this section, an institution may consider that a student did not knowingly and willingly fail to register. They can also consider that he did not knowingly and willingly register under eligibility. He didn't realize that he wasn't eligible and therefore did register, and he didn't mean to, didn't realize it. Now that he realizes it, the record must be retracted, for the record must reflect accurately. In that, I apologize for my mistakes. I repent. And as a redeemer, a stranger and sojourner with our Father which art in heaven, in all of the lands of my possession, I shall grant a redemption. And that's what I'm doing. That's all I wish. It's my wish because it's his will. The student submits to the institution an advisory opinion from the selective service system that does not dispute the student's claim that he did not knowingly and willingly or willfully fail to register. And this here is a statement in our verse stating the same thing, but that I registered, but I did so unknowingly and intentionally. But now that I realize I wasn't eligible at the time, I have to repent. The institution does not have uncontroverted evidence that I did so. They can't prove that I did so intentionally by knowing this stuff and was therefore going to defraud their entire system for 33 fucking years.
And even and I hope that you see it the way I do, even in knowing it now, we see that there really is no requirement. Again, in order to be eligible for Title IV and higher education system, the male student subject to selective service, where's the requirement? The requirement here is saying that in order to be eligible, they have to sign up for selective service because they got a benefit. Yet again, it turns around and says, "Well, but if he didn't sign up, that doesn't mean he's not eligible for the Title IV and higher education." What they're saying is they can't deny it. That's a benefit owed and due and owing to everybody. My right to express myself is no good unless other people have the right to know. So once I give this information through my expression and you hear it through that expression and the right to know, you now have a duty to carry through with the same thing. This is to give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. To teach him how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. But the true principle is to continue teaching. Each one teach one.
And then spend 6 years trying to figure it all out myself. They can't prove that, folks.
Only you can know your intent.
A student, that's what showed me that I'm not eligible to register in that system. It's a military system, and I'm a peaceful inhabitant in this world, a stranger and sojourner with him on a spiritual journey as a living soul in the embodiment of a man in image and likeness of Jesus Christ in Eucharist. A student who is required to register with the selective service and has been denied the Title IV and higher education program assistance because he has not proven to the institution that he has registered with selective service may seek a hearing from the secretary by filing a request in writing.
So I want to ask, is that student 18 years yet or not? Because if he's not 18 years of age yet, he can't contract. See, they have a specific age limit on the military to begin with. Okay? So if he's a student and he's only 17 years old, he can't be required to sign up for that contract yet. Okay? So just because he takes a benefit as a minor doesn't mean now when he turns to be an adult, he owes a debt to the United States. Again, another false presumption.
With the secretary. So now we find we're dealing with the secretary of the Social Security Administration as far as the administrative law judges and the secretary of the Selective Service. Okay, a statement that he is in compliance with registration requirements. So my statement would be that I went outside or entered into the bounds of registration requirements unknowingly and unintentionally, which caused harm not only to myself, but to my family, my children, my companion, my biological brothers and sisters, the parents that adopted me. They call me a lunatic. It's definitely caused damage, not to myself, but to them. A concise statement of the reasons why he has not been able to prove that he is in compliance with those requirements, and copies of all material that he has already supplied to the institution to verify his compliance.
Correct, Earth Angel. That's another one of those things. If a man or woman cannot contract until their age of majority, which is 18 by law, then what are they doing allowing them to contract underage? See, this is the thing. These are the kind of things that show that their law is totally ambiguous and inconsistent. And when you start
My
looking
question
through
is, how come? But my question was, how come when you turn 18, they don't recognize age of majority?
well, yeah, that's because,
That should be
again,
plainly obvious. You're 18. You're an adult now.
right, and that's that Scott versus McNeil, where the court of probate has no jurisdiction over the estate of a person who is in fact alive. But according to the record, it shows a presumption that you're not. It's a decedent estate entered into probate, saying that there's no living will. So when the young man turns 18, instead of going forth and filling out the SS5 and signing up for Social Security and getting the driver's license and all that to work for the state as a resident, if he knew better, he would just draw up his own living will, establish his own private trust, and conduct his affairs privately from that point on. But nobody ever teaches us how to do that. So we come to be 57, 58 years of age before we finally figure it out and start trying to teach others. But we see, Wyrd looked as the lunatics because, well, nobody else is teaching that in the schools. What they would teach that in the school if you needed it. No, that's the problem.
Yeah,
That's
right.
the public education indoctrination system.
That's
They do
their
not
spelling.
teach. Yeah, they do not
Black
teach this
magic
stuff.
spells.
Yep, they do not teach this stuff for a reason.
I definitely see the spiritual component about it all around.
Yep.
Even people next to me, they don't get it.
Yeah, it's a shame. But like I said last night, it is accelerating. People are becoming more and more aware. Things are happening for a better and better purpose and coming out with better and better results.
Trying to enter
I see
documents
that
proving your
too.
compliance or non-compliance. You're entering documents into the record, and that's not the way it's done. You issue a concise statement of the reasons why you cannot be. I urge you to come out of her. And though we can't supply copies of all material that I've already supplied to the institution, I can pull forth their record that would have anything and show that it's not consistent. Therefore, it must be retracted. Must.
That Social Security record, when you look up that financial statement through the Social Security, the decedent numinant, and it shows all the financial transactions that placed a liability on the public record. The only one that can place a liability on the public record, of course, would be a public official. And therefore, the capacity of being a public official not reflecting in the record proves that all the public liability laid into the record was done so in error.
Right. If I'm incapable of contracting until I reach the age of majority and I never filled the paperwork out, then who holds the active degree of fault since I can't contract?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It will prove that they've been stealing from private people. The record will prove theft by conversion from private people.
Theft or taking. I've learned now the term taking is a much better one. taking is relative to taking like data elements, intangible things, things that might have been given, in fact, and therefore because somebody gave them to you, you did in fact take them. But that would be the mistake. It's all relative to the English language and how it works.
People that were not in the military. And this is the only people it applies to. It's a military health system, like I've been saying. It's all an insurance scheme that then says you have to educate your children so they can operate in commerce and get a job. That job is a fucking military position. Secretary provides an opportunity for a hearing to a student who asserts that he is in compliance with registration requirements and files a written request for a hearing in accordance with paragraph F1, right here, of this section within the award year for which he was denied Title IV Health and Higher Education Program assistance, or within 30 days following the end of the payment period, whichever is later.
Award. Each year is for a ward. That's one contract year. Again, the English language is amazing how it works.
It says within the award year. So you can't go back and get awards for prior years, but I could certainly write a written request now for last year.
As well as anything that was posted against you that was taken, fines, fees, penalties, taxes, surcharges, court costs, things like that. Those all come back to you once you fix that record. Those were all liabilities placed in the public that weren't supposed to be placed there, so they're supposed to come back.
If I'd applied and was denied, which I was. I went to go get a set of eyeglasses and I was denied because of the mask. By a Walmart employee at that. For a doctor who took an oath to the United States under God for good faith, in full faith and credit. And then I can only presume that he possibly took a Hippocratic oath in his doctorates. An official designed or designated, not appointed, not assigned, but designated by the Secretary, shall conduct any hearing held under paragraph F2 of this section. An official designated by the Secretary. So now we don't have to deal with the Secretary of Selective Service. We can go right back to the Secretary of Social Security Administration again, because that's who the administrative law judges deal with. Conduct on any hearing held under paragraph. This hearing, the sole purpose of this hearing is the determination of compliance with registration requirements, which are judicial requirements. Again, post-secondary.
Right, and that's determination, not enforcement. And again, this is policy, not law.
The post office is one that regulates the judiciary. Postal Regulatory Commission. They're the ones that administrate all the administrative law judges, and they do that through the judicial discretions, which are accounted for through the Social Security Administration at the state level. That's why that's the judicial record, and the courts hold the criminal record, where they keep the index, which is the fingerprint index and the interstate identification.
And that's the civil, administrative, and criminal records. The judicial record is that statistical record for the monetary purpose through the Social Security that belongs under the delegation or authority of the Postal Service.
Index. FBI record, investigations record. They investigate the record. At this hearing, the student retains the burden of proving compliance by credible evidence, credible evidence, with the requirements of the Military Selective Service Act. The designated official shall not consider challenges based on constitutional or other grounds to the requirements that a student state and verify, if required, compliance with registration requirements or to those registration requirements themselves. So that pretty much says that you're not supposed to use their record against them, so you don't. Jeremiah 1 verse 5. I formed thee in the belly before I knew thee. Before thou wast cast from the womb, I sanctified thee. I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations.
So it's not a constitutional challenge. It's basically a constitutional leverage. You do what you're supposed to do according to that Constitution and your job and your immunities, and I'm going to do supplementally what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to do something greater. I'm not supposed to subject myself to the will of another man. So supplementally, I will be the prophet unto the nation, so sanctified and ordained by God to help you correct the errors that I admittedly helped enter into your records. Again, that's all I'm doing.
And by the record itself, It is only nations that pose to have militaries. I know of no family, mom, dad, and their heirs that pose to have militaries.
And that's the impossibility. If I'm a prophet unto the nations and I subject myself to that nation's military, then I'm no longer a prophet unto the nations and have given up the sanctification and ordinance so granted by God.
A military venue is
And in order to operate in that military, I have to take upon the name in entitlement to do so, just like a license being authorized to do that which was otherwise prohibited.
strictly commercial, and commercial venues are strictly military. Any determination of compliance made under this section is final unless reopened by the Secretary and revised on the basis of additional evidence. Additional evidence to the record, not in, on, and for the record. A distinct difference. This is the written determination that you make yourself. Just like in 26 U.S.C. 6201, the determination of the taxpayer shall be assessed by the Secretary. The assessment
A custom declaration.
isn't done until somebody makes a determination. They have nothing to assess until you determine to enter something into the record, in, on, and for the record. Then they assess that. Now, the Secretary shall determine. It's no longer an assessment. Any determination of compliance made under this section is final. So I'm giving the determination, and it's final. And that whole record that they pose against me proves to be summary.
My yea be may, my yea be yea, and my nay be nay. That's that having full powers to govern myself and knowing better than to subject myself again to the will of another man just because he thinks he has that authority. Where do you get your authority? There is no power but that which is ordained of God.
So all I have to do is post that I posted my declaratory judgment for 2 years now on my worldwide website privately. I have issued.
And that's a statement of separation. You can go to my website and see under notices and just use the find feature and look up statement of separation and it'll pop right up.
To notice internationally. Just did so yesterday morning. Early morning. Pentagon got its notice. And hopefully it went up and down the line, despite how many notices I shotgunned out. I want the world to notice.
Yeah, I noticed the Pentagon, 2 people at the Pentagon actually, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the FBI, various different agencies throughout the United States, including the IRS and several others. Social Security.
That I made a determination. I declared it. The court gave its summary judgment. I made my determination based on that summary judgment. And again, like I said, declared it. And now when nobody rebuts it, it becomes a final judgment. And then all I have to do is issue notice to the Secretary that final judgment has been determined.
And that final judgment has stood for 3 years now. No one has rebutted it yet. No response. So it's just like Homeland Security giving you cannot admit nor deny. They can't interfere. They cannot intercept, not subject to intercept.
Compliance of this under this section is final unless reopened by the Secretary. Now, unless it's reopened by the Secretary, and the Secretary can base that and revise it on additional evidence as opposed to what I posted, then please do so. You would have to prove that I'm party of that military offense of a nation under the Constitution of the Universal Postal Union, which indentures the Treaty of Berne, protecting literary and artistic works, and the law of nations, otherwise known as the principles of the laws of nature. Naturally. Any determination of compliance made under this section is binding only for the purposes of determining eligibility for Title IV higher education program assistance. That's where they get their authority, folks. 20 of the U.S. Code.
Employee benefits. Does that make sense now? Employee benefits, because you're using that Social Security number as an employee, you're considered a military officer, no matter what venue. In any commercial venue, it's a military contract.
That's employee benefits. Selective service under education, and they get their authority from employee benefits and national security. Reception and arrangement of specimens and objects of art. My. Is that birth registration or reception and arrangement of specimens and objects of art? Are they trying to protect their literary work that is false? Are they claiming a literary work based on information abstracted from a specimen and then artistically drawn in another form? And objects of natural history. I hope you guys are paying attention. Natural history. Like I said, law of nations, which would be national history and would be subjects of national history, as opposed to all objects of natural history. And I hope you learn naturally how to teach your little ones their natural observances so that they can object to the National Selective Service appropriately and righteously. In the meantime, remember, guys, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be doing this. Look up this information. No need to post.
Okay, and there you have it. And I posted my site link down there below. It is wordwisewarrior.art. So what do you think, truth and empowerment?
Yeah, they got a lot going on, and I got a lot to figure out. Like if you read my emails and stuff, I've been working so damn hard trying to study this at night and the weekends, but I've been working like 6, 7 days a week for like 6 months, and I need to handle what I need to handle soon. And I'm like, I'm not exactly sure which way I'm going to go, but I got to handle it somehow. So
Yeah. Well, and
it's got me all jacked up.
again, folks, remember the basic principle of this military fiat currency is that everything's a negotiable instrument. Around the world, they're negotiable instruments, and it's just a matter of learning how to come with equity. In other words, if you want peace, you got to first come with peace. So to beat their military documentation, you got to put the peaceful terms in there, and that is coming to terms with the fact that you're the benefactor, and nothing more and nothing less. They're the public servant in public trust. Therefore, they're the trustee. And any violation against the beneficiary is, in fact, a malfeasance of trust for which they could suffer greatly. Deuteronomy 24:7. He who is caught stealing one of the children of the brethren of Israel and making merchandise of them shall be put to death. You shall put evil away from among you. This is the enumeration at birth and what it allows. It allows for them to come in with CPS or DHS or some Yahoo from their school teaching the children transgenderism and gay things and this and that, and saying, well, mom and dad ain't doing their job, so we're going to take their children. That's the most grievous prohibition. They're not supposed to be stealing the children of the brethren of Israel by any means, even the military script that they indoctrinate us with. That's the biggest problem. So yeah, I understand.
Yeah, regular people have a hard time believing that they would treat us the way they do. That's why people have cognitive dissonance because of that. They wouldn't think people would do that to you.
Yeah,
when you find out, it's hard to believe.
Even your local teachers and stuff, and I can't, My companion is a teacher from the public education system, so it's not everybody. Just like I'm not saying the same thing about all police or all public officials. What I'm pointing out is those that are not operating in good faith and show it by when you try to bring a correction faithfully and they get all butthurt and then start trying to dismiss their duties because somehow now they have to do something like learn something. That's that cognitive dissonance. People are so lazy and convenient, they think they don't have to learn anything anymore. You're already dead in life then. You may as well just go kill yourself. Excuse
Fully
me if that hurts.
distracted. Yep, fully distracted by nonsense.
Yep. Well,
Is what I see going on.
Hitler's willing executioners just doing their job. And with
Yep.
that, folks, we're done for tonight. I will be back tomorrow. I'm going to come back. You notice we did the video earlier today on finance. There's one thing I forgot to go over on that, but so I'm going to come back tomorrow morning sometime with another stream to go over that and another term called loan and a thing called judicial review. So I'll be back tomorrow morning, probably 10, 11 o'clock again with another stream on that to finish up on what I should have finished up today with the finance definitions this morning. And in the meantime, you got anything else there, Truth and Power and Empowerment?
That's pretty much it. Just trying to learn everything as much as possible, and stay in honor is pretty much my goal. Whatever they do, they do. As long as I know I'm correct on what I'm saying, then they can't really say much.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it. In this research, I found that the best thing to do instead of making statements of what you know is ask questions that lead to like a working association to learn what the answer to that question is. So when I'm dealing with these people down at the courthouse, I've got to learn how to ask questions that entice them to help research to find out the answer. Questions that they might not be used to and that they can't just automatically say, well, I don't know. Well, help me find out. That's all I'm asking. So,
Exactly. Yep, got to ask the right questions.
Yep. And then as it relates to your question there, what was the doc mentioned to search for on my site? And that is the statement of separation. And it'll be on the notices page, I believe. You just use the find feature and it should pop right up. Put statement of separation in your find and it should come up. And with that, folks,
separation.
Yep, and that's a military document upon DD 214 that most military men are supposed to give. I don't know how that works. I don't hear anybody talking about it, but the statement of separation that I posted, pretty much literally almost word for word, comes from the military's statement of separation themselves. So,
awesome.
And with that, you know me, folks. I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. And that's to say, I don't care if you hate me. So may God bless you and have a good night.
Night, all.